Kevin MkII is keeping his head down through Echo Valley.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights, Echo Valley has it all.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. Adam is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Adam can deliver.
Adam is expertly commanding that car through Millstone Straight. Adam appears focused and prepared driving through turn 6. The adrenaline is pumping. Simon of the Desert is on his out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time.
It's all about finding that balance between staying calm and focused, while also pushing the limits.
Simon of the Desert is driving through turn 13, Aaron's turn. That's the outlap done for Simon of the Desert. He'll now look to focus on his first flying lap. Simon of the Desert is looking relatively composed going through turn 3, Millstone turn.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near turn 3, Millstone turn, with a nice drink and some friends.
Adam is on his out lap. As Adam completes the outlap, he will be hoping there's enough space on track to fully attack on the flying lap. That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through turn 2, Hansgen turn. This is where the mental game comes into play. Malero is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run.
It's a delicate balance between taking it easy and pushing hard. Let's see how Malero handles it.
Malero crosses the start-finish line at the end of his outlap. Sketty is on his first flying lap.
Let's see if he can put a good marker down.
Sketty is expertly commanding that car through turn 2, Hansgen turn. Sketty is keeping his head down through Echo Valley.
Don't forget to check out the views near Echo Valley, they are fantastic.
Sketty is 1.04 up driving through turn 10-11, Lightbulb.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
Sketty is in the green by 1.3, making his way through turn 13, Aaron's turn.
All we can do now is wish Sketty luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Sketty has just completed that lap in 1:31.382, which is 0.703 off the best time, putting him in P3. This is what it's all about. Adam is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session. Adam is now up 1.26 in turn 9, Valley of the Lefts. Adam has improved by 1.52 up through turn 12.
The rest of this lap is no cakewalk. Let's hope he can keep it up.
Adam has completed his first flying lap in 1:30.356. Kevin Lekmanski has improved by 0.11. Kevin Lekmanski is driving through East Straight.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Kevin Lekmanski will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but David Zahn is rising to the occasion.
It's always impressive to see a driver in the zone like this Hal. Let's see if he can maintain this pace.
David Zahn appears focused and prepared driving through Millstone Straight. David Zahn is off the pace 0.32 at turn 7, Valley of the Lefts. Malero will be looking to use this first hot lap to set a solid time in the standings.
It's certainly exciting to watch, but let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position for the race.
Kevin Lekmanski has found an extra 0.11. Kevin Lekmanski is currently up 0.1 going through East Straight.
If Lekmanski looks at that delta too much, it may end up being a distraction, and all that time he found may be lost.
Simon of the Desert is up 0.21. Simon of the Desert is driving through turn 6 and is up 0.48.
There's no guarantee that Simon can maintain this delta through the rest of the lap.
That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through East Straight. Simon of the Desert has some work to do, as his best time of 1:31.655 is only good enough for 6th.
There's at least 1.299 seconds to be found, but Simon may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Simon of the Desert is in the green by 0.59, making his way through turn 3, Millstone turn.
If Simon gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Narwhal is expertly commanding that car through turn 6. Sketty is now up 0.2. Sketty is 0.21 up driving through turn 13, Aaron's turn.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
Sketty will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.514, but that won't stop him from trying.
Kevin Lekmanski is now up 0.47 in turn 9, Valley of the Lefts.
All we can do now is wish Kevin luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Kevin Lekmanski is working his way through turn 12.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Kevin Lekmanski is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:29.947.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Jake Feemster is driving through turn 3, Millstone turn. Sketty appears focused and prepared driving through turn 4, Colasanti corner. Jake Feemster currently has 7.147 of a gap to match P1. Ada, any thoughts on ways to improve?
Every driver needs something different, Hal. Some drivers excel when they push harder, while other drivers benefit more from relaxing and being in a flow state.
Simon of the Desert has improved by 0.28 up through turn 2, Hansgen turn.
If Simon looks at that delta too much, it may end up being a distraction, and all that time he found may be lost.
Adam is in the green by 0.1. Adam is looking relatively composed going through turn 5.
The action and glory drivers have lived here at turn 5 is truly historic.
Jake Feemster is up 1.09. Jake Feemster is currently up 1.05 going through turn 6.
There's no guarantee that Feemster can maintain this delta through the rest of the lap.
It seems like Jake Feemster is struggling, currently 0.83 off his best pace up through turn 10-11, Lightbulb.
This isn't looking good. Hopefully he can improve on the next flying lap.
It's an impressive showing by David Zahn, currently in 7th. He's showcased his talent, but will need to find those crucial extra tenths to climb higher.
Great analysis, Hal. David has shown excellent pace to secure 7th. Now, the focus shifts to whether he can use that track position to his advantage in the race.
David Zahn is in the green by 0.46, making his way through turn 7, Valley of the Lefts. David Zahn is expertly commanding that car through East Straight.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
David Zahn has some work to do, as his best time of 1:31.840 is only good enough for 7th. Malero has secured a respectable 4th in the qualifying session. This is a great spot to use as a launchpad for a strong race performance. Malero is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:29.932. Currently in 4th, Narwhal has displayed promising speed during the qualifying session. The real test lies in whether he can convert this performance into a higher grid position. And there goes Jake Feemster, currently in P8. He's shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still a chance to improve on that time. Jake Feimster has some work to do, as his best time of 1:33.464 is only good enough for 8th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 3.532 gap to pole.
Kevin Lekmanski is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:29.540.
That's a great time, but it's always a good idea to keeping pushing for every last 10th and 100th.
A strong showing from David Zahn as he's currently in 7th. With the session drawing to a close, he'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. David Zahn has some work to do, as his best time of 1:31.500 is only good enough for 6th.
There's at least 1.96 seconds to be found, but Zahn may be looking for it in the wrong places.
David Zahn is working his way through turn 2, Hansgen turn. It's a very still day here at Bridgehampton Race Circuit, as we're getting ready to get things underway. Kevin Lekmanski will be looking to convert his pole position into a win.
He can't afford to get complacent. He will have a target on his back now.
MkII will be looking to convert this front row start into a win.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
Watch out for Adam, starting from the 3rd grid position in today's race.
Starting from here, Adam may already have expectations of a podium finish.
Narwhal is holding down the fort in 4th place.
Narwhal will be taking no prisoners today.
On the 5th grid slot we have Sketty,
putting that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder into prime position for the race.
At 6th, we have the one and only David Zahn.
It's not always easy to get the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder this high up the starting grid.
Starting from 7th on the grid is a good position for Simon of the Desert to launch an attack. On the 8th grid slot we have Jake Feimster. Bjorn Hemmen is 9th. Ryan Wilson is placed in 10th. Bridgehampton Race Circuit is located near Sag Harbor, New York, United States. The circuit opened in 1957, following a series of road races held from 1949 until 1953. It was one of the first permanent road racing venues in the United States, opening after Thompson Speedway, 2 years after Road America, 1 year after Watkins Glen International, and the same year as Lime Rock Park and Laguna Seca Raceway. In its early years, Bridgehampton was host to major international series, including the World Sportscar Championship, Can-Am, and NASCAR Grand National. The lights are off, the gloves are on, and it's go time.
The drivers will need to be aggressive but also patient. They can't afford to make any mistakes if they want to stay in the running for a podium finish.
It's a delicate balance, Ada, but the best drivers know how to push the limits and make it work to their advantage.
It's never easy to drive that razor's edge between perfection and disaster.
All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up.
The first lap can always be a bit of a melee as everyone tries to establish themselves. It's easy for inexperienced racers to blow it in T1.
MkII will be studying the nearby drivers and looking for anything that could give them an advantage. The pressure is on when the field is this tightly packed. Maintaining just enough aggression to hold off their rivals without pushing too hard will help these drivers keep it clean. The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap. This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
It's always intense racing here at Bridgehampton Race Circuit. Hold on to your hats, folks.
Jake Feemster has got off to a great early start, already gaining places. Gotta be very pleased with that.
Yeah, every place helps, and that put him in a very strong position now.
Bjorn Hemmen looks like he got off to a flying first lap, gaining places straight out of the gate.
A fantastic start for Bjorn Hemmen indeed, but the first lap can be very scrappy. Let's hope he can hold on to that place.
Disappointing for Bjorn Hemmen, falling down the order to 9th. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors. Hold up, breaking info. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Kevin is not going to be happy about that. Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
The pursuit is on. Simon of the Desert is closing the gap on Kevin Lekmanski, determined to claim P3. Adam is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
The gap is 0.3 seconds now. Adam is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Dave.
Braking development. I don't think that's the fastest way around Bridgehampton Race Circuit. It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce.
At this rate, Adam and David are so close, they could share a cup of tea and a biscuit.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Narwhal is chasing Simon of the Desert in P3.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Narwhal needs to stay patient and wait for Simon to make a mistake.
The race is really heating up. Adam is hunting down David Zahn with everything he's got.
The gap between them is now just over 0.5 seconds.
It's certainly not going to plan for Adam right now, who is struggling to keep up with David Zahn.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
The pursuit is on. Narwhal is working on that gap to Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P3. Wait. Oh dear, Bjorn Hemmen has had an incident.
This is where every inch counts. Narwhal is pushing hard to close the gap on Simon.
Narwhal is trying his best to catch Simon of the Desert. The battle for P6 is heating up as Adam tries to catch David Zahn in P6. Hold up. Breaking info. Looks like that's a mistake from Ryan Wilson. This could be costly.
Oops, Wilson is going to be wishing that hadn't happened.
Adam is running 7th and trying to catch David Zahn.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
Adam is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to David Zahn to 0.1 seconds. It's a brilliant day for racing, and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Hal. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
Hold up. Breaking info. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Bridgehampton Race Circuit is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Adam is closing in on David Zahn.
He's got his work cut out for him, that's for sure.
It's not going to plan for Adam, who is trailing behind David Zahn and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is a frustrating situation for Adam, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Dave.
The drivers have been working hard to come up with the perfect race strategy. They've been looking at the weather, the track conditions and the performance of their cars.
Now it's time to put that strategy into action and see if it pays off.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Sketty is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Ryan to even allow Sketty to get a look in.
Sketty certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Wilson.
This is a thrilling battle as Adam edges closer to David Zahn in their fight for P6. The gap between Adam and David Zahn is widening. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
This is a tough situation for Adam. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Fantastic racing on show here today, and it's not just the top drivers who are impressing us. Even the drivers at the back of the pack are putting up a good fight, battling it out for every position. Hold on a second. That won't be ideal for Narwhal.
It's a testament to the level of competition at ASRL. Even the smallest mistake can cost you valuable seconds, or even lead to a crash. But these drivers are up to the challenge, and they're giving it their all. It's clear that ASRL really is the place to be for top quality racing.
Adam is staying focused while chasing David Zahn in P5.
Adam needs to focus to make up that gap to Dave.
The gap between Adam and David Zahn is getting smaller. Big gains for Adam as they move up the field, leaving David Zahn behind. It looks like Narwhal is pushing hard to catch up to David Zahn.
This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Narwhal in P7 doing everything he can to catch up.
David Zahn is on a mission, chasing Adam who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Hold on a second. What a move. David Zahn has moved up to 5th.
We'll have to wait to see if David can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
During your racing career, Ada, did you have any specific techniques to regain concentration if you felt it slipping?
Yes, Hal, I had a few techniques. One was to take a couple of deep breaths and briefly reset my focus. Another was to use a specific keyword or phrase as a mental trigger to refocus my mind on the task at hand.
Things are going according to plan for Adam, who is currently 7th. It's all about consistency for Simon of the Desert, who is currently 3rd.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Simon has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Simon of the Desert has just put in a faster lap than Jake Feemster, so that's going to give him something to worry about.
The question now is, can Jake respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
It's looking good for Jake Feemster, sitting in 4th.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
Braking development. This is not looking good for Jake Feemster. He's just lost 4th to David Zahn. At this point his strategy seems to be failing him.
Dave is in there like a rat up a drain pipe, Hal. Feemster is not going to be happy about that.
We are used to seeing some hard-fought but clean racing here at ASRL. I'm expecting to see nothing different here today as this race unfolds. It's an intense battle for position as Jake Feemster tries to outmaneuver David Zahn. This is edge-of-your-seat racing.
This is the moment where legends are made. These drivers will go down in history as the ones who fought tooth and nail for the top spot.
Malero is placed 1st at the moment.
Definitely Hal, but Malero can't afford to get complacent. This race is going to require focus and intensity.
It's a thrilling pursuit as Jake Feemster is right behind David Zahn, keeping the pressure on for 4th place.
You know what they say, keep your friends close, and your racing rivals even closer. Looks like Feemster is taking that advice to heart today.
It seems like Jake Feemster is struggling and not able to maintain his pace. During your racing career, Ada, How did you determine when it was the right time to pit for fresh tires due to tire degradation?
It was a combination of factors, Hal. Monitoring lap times, communicating with the team about tire wear, and assessing the car's handling were all crucial in deciding when to make a pit stop for fresh tires.
Jake Feemster is giving it his all chasing down David Zahn in P4.
With just 0.6 seconds between them, Feemster will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
A strong showing from Ryan Wilson, who is currently 8th.
That's right, Ryan can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
Oh, this is getting intense. Jake Feemster is just behind David Zahn.
The only thing closer than Feemster to Dave right now is the paint on their cars. Talk about a close encounter.
Jake Feemster is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with David Zahn at the moment.
This is where the mental toughness of Feemster comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
Sketty will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. It looks like Ryan Wilson is pulling away from Sketty. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through East Straight.
This is not ideal for Sketty, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Oh, this is getting intense. Jake Feemster needs to keep David Zahn in his sights. Hold on a second. I don't think that's the fastest way around Bridgehampton race circuit. Look at that, Jake Feemster is hot on the tail of David Zahn. It's game on now. Jake Feemster has closed the gap to David Zahn. It's now down to 0.2 seconds. The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of focus and determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to compete at this level, and these drivers have it in spades. Let's hope they can keep it up and give us a race to remember.
Narwhal is running 6th and trying to keep up with Jake Feemster.
Narwhal is really hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder. He's riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
It looks like Narwhal is making a move. The gap to Jake Feemster is now down to 0.5 seconds. It looks like Jake Feemster is in control. He's ahead of Narwhal by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon. Wait. A tough moment for Jake Feemster, who has just lost a place, now in 6th. You know, Ada, I've always wondered, how do racing drivers stay so cool and collected under such immense pressure?
Well, Hal, it comes down to mental strength and training. Drivers often work with sports psychologists and practice techniques like meditation and visualization to help them stay calm and focused during high-pressure situations.
Jake Feemster has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Narwhal. I expect his only hope at this point is that Narwhal makes an error. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for David Zahn as there is a big gap ahead.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It looks like we might get a battle between David Zahn and Simon of the Desert. Jake Feemster is pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap to Narwhal. There's 14 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Jake in 6th determined to catch up.
Jake Feemster appears to be losing ground on Narwhal. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into turn 4, Colasanti corner to get a good exit and gain some ground.
Feemster needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Narwhal.
That's not a small gap, but MkII has what it takes to challenge for the position. MkII is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Malero to 4.5 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. MkII needs to find a way to close the gap. The crowd is on the edge of their seats as David Zahn in fourth chases after Simon of the Desert. Good news for David Zahn, the gap to Simon of the Desert has decreased. It's now down to 2.7 seconds. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Bjorn Hemmen is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight. It's certainly not going to plan for Bjorn Hemmen right now, who is struggling to keep up with Ryan Wilson.
Bjorn Hemmen needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
Huge shout out to the admins at ASRL for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Hal, and the excitement is electric. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Bjorn Hemmen trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Ryan Wilson. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
Bjorn Hemmen needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Wilson and move up the field.
A solid performance from Simon of the Desert, who is holding down third. It looks like David Zahn is starting to catch up to Simon of the Desert. The gap is now down to 2.2 seconds. As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the pit crews. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine themselves.
Absolutely. They're the unsung heroes of the racing world. But you know what they say, behind every great driver is an even greater pit crew.
Things are going according to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is currently third. Jake Feemster is pushing to maintain the lead, while Adam is working to close in and challenge for the position.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination.
It's not looking good for Adam, who is still behind Jake Feemster, and the gap is increasing.
Adam really needs to push in turn 4, Colasanti corner, to gain some ground before Feemster drives off into the sunset.
It's all about consistency for Simon of the Desert, who is currently third.
Yes, but Simon has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Things are starting to get tense as David Zahn manages to close the gap to Simon of the Desert. It's now down to 1.6 seconds.
Can Simon keep Zahn behind? Let's see.
As a former racing driver, Ada, how important is the relationship between a driver and their team during a race?
It's absolutely crucial, Hal. The team provides valuable information and support, helping the driver make the right decisions on track. A strong bond between the driver and the team can be the difference between winning and losing.
The tension is building as David Zahn trails behind Simon of the Desert. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as David can close that gap.
Looks like that's a mistake from David Zahn. This could be costly. David Zahn is looking for a way to close that gap to Narwhal.
I would not be surprised to see him challenge for the position.
Things don't seem to be going Narwhal's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. The gap between Narwhal and Simon of the Desert is getting smaller.
That's a great effort from Narwhal. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
The gap between Jake Feemster and David Zahn is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Jake to even allow David to get a look in.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
It looks like David Zahn is making a move. The gap to Jake Feemster is now down to 5.7 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
Well, it looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam on the track.
It's like rush hour out there. I mean, I know we're in a race, but can't we all just get along?
You can wish all you want, but I don't think that's how racing works, Ada. These drivers are here to win, and they'll do whatever it takes to get ahead.
I guess you're right, but wouldn't it be great if they all just stopped for high fives and fist bumps?
Well, it doesn't look like David Zahn is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Jake Feemster.
Zahn certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Feemster.
Oh, this is getting intense. Narwhal is just a few car lengths behind Simon of the Desert. It looks like we might get a battle between Narwhal and Simon of the Desert. Fantastic move from Narwhal, who has just gained a position.
You can't argue with results like that. Narwhal is really making his mark on this race.
The gap between Narwhal and Simon of the Desert is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Narwhal to bring Simon of the Desert into play. Braking alert. Heartbreak for Narwhal as they slip down the field. It's looking good for Narwhal, sitting in fourth.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Narwhal has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
The race is heating up as Jake Feemster in fifth closes in on Narwhal.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Jake tries to reel in Narwhal.
Jake Feemster is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Narwhal to 4.8 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
This will require some expert driving from Adam. David Zahn is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second.
Dave is not going to give up his position easily.
It's game on now. Adam has closed the gap to David Zahn. It's now down to 13.0 seconds.
Exactly what Adam needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Zahn.
The delta between Adam in seventh and David Zahn remains over a second, but Adam is not letting up.
David is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace.
It looks like Malero has found another gear in the last sector of the race.
He's going to need to make some more room on that trophy shelf back home.
And it's a checkered flag for Malero, who crosses the finish line with a commanding victory. What a phenomenal performance, absolutely dominant today.
What a display of skill and precision.
Kevin Lekmansky takes second place with a fantastic race.
Strong work securing second place. Well done.
Adam and Bjorn Hemmen in seventh and ninth. Eighth sees Sketty. What a race from Simon of the Desert. He kept his cool and secured a well-earned third place on the podium. Followed by Narwhal in fourth. Coming in 5th we have Jake Feemster. David Zahn brings home 6th. It's a very still day here at Bridgehampton Race Circuit, as we're getting ready to kick things off.
The drivers are looking focused out there on the grid. I'm excited for this one, Hal.
Starting from pole position is a great opportunity for Bjorn Hemmen to take control of the race.
He can't let his guard down. The other drivers will be gunning for him.
Starting on the front row gives Sketty the best possible chance at challenging for the lead.
He will have to be smart about his moves. He must not burn out too early.
Adam will begin the race from the 3rd spot on the starting grid.
It's like he's on the outside looking in, close enough to see the front without actually being there.
David Zahn has qualified 4th.
A strong grid position, and he'll be expecting a solid result today.
Sitting in 5th it's Jake Feemster.
Feemster is in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
Narwhal will look to make a splash from the 6th position on the starting grid.
Another good start for the American driver.
The 7th starting position belongs to Simon of the Desert, who will be looking to make up ground early on.
The proof will most definitely be in the pudding for this American driver.
Kevin Lekmansky has qualified 8th.
He's going to have to time his moves just right to move up the grid during the race.
Our 9th place starter, Malero, is a driver who knows how to make up ground on the track.
The Brazilian driver has been driving the wheels off the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder in practice.
From the middle of the pack, we have Ryan Wilson in 10th place on the starting grid. Bridgehampton Race Circuit is located near Sag Harbor, New York, United States. The circuit opened in 1957, following a series of road races held from 1949 until 1953. It was one of the first permanent road racing venues in the United States, opening after Thompson Speedway, 2 years after Road America, 1 year after Watkins Glen International, and the same year as Lime Rock Park and Laguna Seca Raceway. In its early years, Bridgehampton was host to major international series, including the World Sports Car Championship, Can-Am, and NASCAR Grand National. The green flag is waving and we're off to the races. Let's see who can get out in front and establish an early lead.
With adrenaline running high, some drivers may take unnecessary risks. Staying patient and knowing when to make a move is essential for a strong start.
Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then. The racing is normally closely fought here at Bridgehampton Race Circuit. I think we are in for a cracking race. Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position?
There are a few drivers with a point to prove, and a few with some grudges to bear. Let's hope they can keep it clean.
I think passing is going to be difficult today here at Bridgehampton Race Circuit, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on. As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race. Having started in P8, MkII will be hoping for a good result in this race.
Like gladiators, they enter hell, but instead of lions and swords, our champions fight in an arena of tarmac, and with fire-breathing machines of cutting-edge materials, designed to explore the very limits of physics itself in what can sometimes be very much a fight to the death.
So far, this is a great race start for Ryan Wilson.
If Ryan can keep this up, he might become the star of the show today.
It's a steady race for Narwhal so far, keeping it clean and maintaining focus. The action is non-stop as MkII shadows Simon of the Desert through every twist and turn, determined to claim fourth. Hold up, breaking info. An impressive showing from MkII, who has gained positions and left Simon of the Desert in the dust.
Go, 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 that's what we want to see.
Things are heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to close the gap to MkII.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
The pressure is on as Melero tries to catch up to David Zahn. The gap between Melero and David Zahn is growing. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
Bjorn Hemmen is looking for a way round Sketty.
If you don't push the boundaries, you will never know where they are.
Melero is looking to take advantage of that slipstream being so close to Adam. That's gonna provide the extra speed to challenge for the position. Breaking news, folks. Tough break for Adam, who has just lost a position. A setback for Adam, who has just been passed. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Jake Feemster, who is currently in P10. Breaking development. A brilliant maneuver from Jake Feemster, who has just moved up the field.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about. Anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Feemster pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
It's a tight race with Simon of the Desert in fourth, just managing to stay ahead of Narwhal in 5 by a margin of 0.1 seconds. Hold the phone. Great driving from Narwhal, who has just gained a place and moved up to fourth.
That's what we like to see. Narwhal is really showing his class today.
Oh my, Narwhal is hot on the tail of Simon of the Desert as they drive through turn 1, Hansgen turn. Hold on a second. Oh dear, Narwhal has had an incident.
Should things go awry, Narwhal and Simon might find themselves giving a whole new meaning to the term tandem drifting, though I doubt they'd enjoy it as much as the spectators.
The pursuit is on. Melero is closing the gap on David Zahn, determined to claim P1.
Melero is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder like a boss.
The gap between Melero and David Zahn is getting smaller. We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. Ada, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling?
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
Narwhal is placed 8th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Adam, who is 0.8 seconds behind.
You're spot on, and Adam knows that he can't rely on Narwhal making an error. He will need to drive with skill and determination, and be ready to seize any opportunity that arises.
Breaking news, folks. That won't be ideal for MkII. Melero could be looking for a way up the inside of David Zahn.
If Melero gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
The race is really heating up. Melero is hunting down David Zahn with everything he's got.
No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
The gap between Malero and David Zahn is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. Tactics are clearly going to play an important part in this race.
Drivers are going to need to look after their tires and will want to keep something in them for the crucial latter stages, as their tires wear and fuel levels deplete in the handling changes.
And don't forget the track grip increases as more rubber gets laid down.
Indeed, the conditions are constantly changing and the drivers need to adapt, otherwise it can cost crucial time and jeopardize their position.
The pursuit is on. Jake Feemster is working on that gap to Bjorn Hemmen, determined to claim P5.
It's a game of strategy now as Feemster hunts down Bjorn Hemmen.
Good news for Jake Feemster, the gap to Bjorn Hemmen has decreased. It's now down to 0.6 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Breaking update. Superb driving from Malero, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
Absolutely. Malero is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. David Zahn has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Sketty. I expect his only hope at this point is that Sketty makes an error.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Dave is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Hold the phone. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. Jake Feemster is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Breaking news, folks. A great moment for Jake Feemster, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for David Zahn as there is a big gap ahead.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
It looks like we might get a battle between David Zahn and Sketty. You can feel the tension in the air.
The drivers are all focused, putting everything on the line for a chance at victory, pushing themselves and their machines to the limit.
And let's not forget about the incredible machines themselves.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about the kind of engineering and innovation that goes into making these vehicles. But it all comes down to the drivers, who have to be able to handle the power and speed. It's going to be thrilling seeing how this race turns out.
Ryan Wilson will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
It's going to be tough for Ryan, as Jake seems to have found his rhythm.
It looks like Jake Feemster is pulling away from Ryan Wilson. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through turn 6. Hey, Ada, you've had your fair share of races with little action. How did you handle the situation back in your racing days?
Well, Hal, patience is key in such scenarios. You need to stay focused and be ready to seize any opportunity that comes your way. It's like a game of chess at 200 miles per hour.
Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around Bridgehampton race circuit.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result.
David Zahn is trying his best to catch Sketty.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
It looks like David Zahn is making a move. The gap to Sketty is now down to 0.8 seconds. A strong showing from Bjorn Hemmen, who is currently 6th. Braking alert. Disappointing for Bjorn Hemmen, falling down the order to 7th.
Definitely, but Bjorn Hemmen is a skilled driver, and has what it takes to fight back and regain that position. Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
And it's not just about skill and talent. It's about who has the nerves of steel to handle the pressure and make the right decisions at the right time.
It's not going to plan for David Zahn, who is trailing behind Sketty and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
It's not over yet, but Zahn needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Sketty.
Things don't seem to be going Jake Feemster's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. Braking development. Looks like that's a mistake from Bjorn Hemmen. This could be costly.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 2 kph out there right now. Feemster certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Zahn.
The battle for P3 is heating up as David Zahn tries to catch Sketty in P3.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. David needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Ryan Wilson is pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap to Jake Feemster. There's 11 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
Absolutely. Ryan in 6th will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
A solid performance from Malero, who is holding down first. Excellent work from Malero, who has managed to increase his lead over Kevin Lekmansky. Ada, how do racing drivers like yourself train to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation, Hal. Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
Every move counts now as David Zahn works to reel in Sketty and overtake for P3. The drivers are getting faster as they settle into their cars and get used to the conditions, with David Zahn just putting in his best lap so far with a 1 minute.
It's always good to see Zahn improving.
Malero is placed first at the moment.
That's right, Malero can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
Things are heating up as David Zahn closes in on Sketty. The gap between them is down to practically nothing. Braking alert. What a move. David Zahn has moved up to third.
Impressive. Zahn is really showing his skill and determination out there. When I was racing, we had a saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Dave is definitely living on the edge today.
Sketty is on a mission, chasing David Zahn, who's currently got a comfortable lead. Looking at the lap times, Sketty is not currently on pace with David Zahn. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time.
It will be interesting to see if David can keep outpacing Sketty.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Simon of the Desert is closing in on Bjorn Hemmen.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Sketty is running fourth and trying to catch David Zahn. Sketty appears to be losing ground on David Zahn. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into turn 5 to get a good exit and gain some ground. You know, Ada, during a long race like this, how easy is it for a driver to experience a lapse in concentration?
It can be quite easy, Hal, with so many factors to consider and the intense focus required. Even the most experienced drivers can have a momentary lapse. That's why mental training and staying in the zone are so important.
The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Simon of the Desert needs to find a way to close the gap. Hold the phone. Oh dear, Malero has had an incident.
We know Bjorn Hemmen isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Simon is going to have to take it.
This is a thrilling battle as Sketty edges closer to David Zahn in their fight for P3.
The racing is getting tight between Sketty and Zahn as they battle for P3. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Well, it doesn't look like Bjorn Hemmen is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Simon of the Desert. A tough moment for Bjorn Hemmen, who has just lost a place, now in 8th.
That's got to hurt. Bjorn Hemmen needs to get back on the line and minimize the damage.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
It's not looking good for Sketty, who is still behind David Zahn, and the gap is increasing. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Sketty is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight.
That's right. Sketty in 4th knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Dave is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
It's all about consistency for Adam, who is currently 7th.
Yes, but Adam has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Impressive driving from Adam, who has managed to extend his lead over Bjorn Hemmen. It looks like Bjorn Hemmen will have to regroup and try to make up that lost ground.
It's really looking like Adam is going to be tough to pass today. He's driving with real confidence and authority.
You know, Ada, it's been a relatively quiet race so far. Hold the phone. Heartbreak for Adam as they slip down the field.
Yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Adam needs to stay calm and focused, and make his move when the time is right. That's right, Hal. The drivers seem to be pacing themselves and waiting for the right moment to make their move. It's like watching a slow dance.
The pressure is on as Malero works on catching up to Kevin Lekmansky. It's game on now. Malero has closed the gap to Kevin Lekmansky. It's now down to 0.6 seconds. The race is really heating up. Malero is hunting down Kevin Lekmansky with everything he's got.
It's a game of strategy now as Malero hunts down Kevin. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Malero is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Kevin Lekmansky to 0.4 seconds. So, Ada, considering the high speeds and split-second decision-making involved in racing, what's the impact of even a minor lapse in concentration?
A minor lapse in concentration can have significant consequences, Hal. It could lead to an off-track excursion, a loss of position, or even a collision. That's why it's crucial for drivers to stay focused and alert throughout the race.
The pressure is on, but these drivers are showing tremendous respect for each other while going all out. It's a masterclass in clean, hard racing. Looks like Malero is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. The mental game is just as important here. Malero must keep his cool while putting pressure on Kevin.
This is wheel-to-wheel racing at its finest. The drivers are practically glued together as they fight for every inch of track. It's a battle you don't want to miss. Malero is on a mission, chasing Kevin Lekmansky, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. The gap between Malero and Kevin Lekmansky is growing. It's now up to 0.9 seconds.
This is where the mental toughness of Malero comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
Oh, the pressure is intense. These three drivers are displaying incredible skill and determination. It's like a high-speed chess match out there. It's certainly not going to plan for Bjorn Hemmen right now, who is struggling to keep up with Adam. As a former driver, Ada, how did you manage the physical demands of racing?
It's all about preparation, how. Drivers undergo rigorous fitness training to build their strength, stamina, and flexibility. A proper diet and hydration plan is also essential to ensure peak performance on race day.
Malero is looking for a way to close that gap to Kevin Lekmanski. Good news for Malero, the gap to Kevin Lekmanski has decreased. It's now down to 0.5 seconds.
That's a great effort from Malero. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
This one's going to be tough. Kevin Lekmanski is getting his elbows out, and there may not be enough time left for Malero to make a move. Kevin Lekmanski is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 1.25 seconds down. These drivers are battling hard for this position, each one trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other. Stop the press. And Malero has just won the place from Kevin Lekmanski. Tough break for Malero, who has just lost a position. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Malero is chasing Kevin Lekmanski in P1. That's not a small gap, but Simon of the Desert has what it takes to challenge for the position.
This is where experience comes into play. Feemster has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Simon is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
The pressure is on as Malero tries to catch up to Kevin Lekmanski. It looks like we might get a battle between Malero and Kevin Lekmanski.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
Oh dear, Malero has dropped down to third.
Yes, but he can't give up. There's still plenty of time left in this race, and Malero needs to stay focused and keep pushing.
This is what separates the best from the rest. These drivers are demonstrating their racecraft, searching for any weakness to exploit. It's a true test of skill.
No doubt about it, Hal. The battle for that same piece of tarmac is intense. The sparks flying and the close quarters racing showcase the incredible skill and nerve of these drivers.
It's looking good for Sketty, sitting in fourth.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Sketty has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
Oh no, Ada, look at this. Jake Feemster is closing in on Sketty. The gap is now just 6.7 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to mount on Sketty. He'll need to stay focused and not make any mistakes.
As a former racing driver, Ada, how challenging was it to adapt your driving style to account for tire degradation throughout a race?
It was a constant challenge, Hal. Tire degradation can change the car's balance and handling, so drivers need to be versatile and adaptable. It requires continuous adjustments to driving techniques and a keen understanding of the car's behavior.
Things are going according to plan for Adam, who is currently 7th. The gap between Adam and Bjorn Hemmen is getting smaller. It's now down to 5.1 seconds. They're going side by side, door handle to door handle. This is as close as it gets, folks. I would not be surprised if these drivers swap positions a few times before the order gets ultimately decided.
You're absolutely right, Hal. The level of respect these drivers have for each other while pushing their limits is commendable. It's a testament to their professionalism and love for the sport.
Kevin Lekmanski is on fire in the last sector. What a win. This is a historic moment for Kevin Lekmanski, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
Lekmanski is not leaving anything on the table.
A nail-biting finish, but David Zahn claims second place.
Impressive result. He can be proud of that performance, which landed him on the second podium spot.
Impressive drive from Malero to claim the final spot on the podium. Bjorn Hemmen claim 8th. Sketty take 4th. In 5th, it's Simon of the Desert. Wait. A brilliant maneuver from Simon of the Desert, who has just moved up the field.
Yes, Simon is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
With Adam in 6th. Hold on a second. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Adam gaining places and Jake Feemster losing them.